Hello. Welcome to the American Martyrs Sanctuary Group of Alcoholics Anonymous. My name is Morgana, and I'm an alcoholic. Are there any other alcoholics present? Would you please join me in the serenity prayer? God, grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, the courage to change the things I can, and the wisdom to know the difference. This is a non-smoking meeting, including e-cigarettes and vapes. Smoking is not permitted in Manhattan Beach. Please respect the no smoking rule and do not smoke on the premises. If you have not done so already, please turn off your cell phone. Okay. We record our speakers at this meeting. If you would like a recording of tonight's speaker or any past speakers, please see Chris at the desk to my right. If you have a court card, please place it in the basket when we do the seventh tradition, and you can pick it up after the meeting. Alcoholics Anonymous is a fellowship of men and women who share their experience, strength, and hope with each other that they may solve their common problem and help others recover from alcoholism. There are no dues or fees for AA membership. We are self-supporting through our own contributions. AA is not allied with any sect, denomination, politics, organization, or institution, does not wish to engage in any controversy, neither endorses nor opposes any causes. Our primary purpose is to stay sober and to help other alcoholics to achieve sobriety. Not to embarrass you, are there any alcoholics with less than 30 days of sobriety? We ask so that we may get to know you better at the break. If so, please stand and tell us your name and disease.
Carson, alcoholic.
Hi, Carson.
Jake, alcoholic.
Hi, Jake. All right, welcome. Will all the Al-Anons with us tonight please raise their hands? Do we have any visitors from outside the greater Los Angeles area? If so, please stand and introduce yourself.
Martyrs, I'm an alcoholic. Irvine, home group is the King Club.
Hi, Iris.
And I'm an alcoholic from Westminster, and in my home group I have two, the Seal Beach Speakers and the La Palma Big Book.
Thank you. Welcome.
Stephen.
Anyone else?
Stephen, alcoholic from Massachusetts.
Oh, wow, Stephen. Hi.
Cassidy, alcoholic, Huntington Beach.
Hi, Cassidy. Welcome.
And I'm alcoholic.
Okay. At this meeting, we read a portion of Chapter 5 from the Big Book of Alcoholics Anonymous. Tonight, I've asked a friend to read this for us. Pebbles, I have asked Pebbles to read this for us.
Thanks, Morgana.
Yeah, sure. I don't know where it is.
I have stuff between my teeth. I don't know you're going to choose me.
Okay, there you go.
Thank you. I'm Pebbles. I'm an alcoholic. Hello. Hi, everyone. Chapter 5, How It Works. Rarely have we seen a person fail who's thoroughly followed our path. Those who do not recover are people who cannot or will not completely give themselves to the simple program, usually men and women who are constitutionally incapable of being honest with themselves. There are such unfortunates. They are not at fault. They seem to have been born that way. They are naturally incapable of grasping and developing a manner of living which demands rigorous honesty. Their chances are less than average. There are those, too, who suffer from grave emotional and mental disorder, but many of them do recover if they have the capacity to be honest. Our stories disclose, in a general way, what we used to be like, what happened, and what we're like now. If you have decided you want what we have and are willing to go to any length to get it, then you are ready to take these certain steps. As some of these we balked. We thought we could find an easier, softer way, but we could not. With all the earnestness at our command, we beg of you to be fearless and thorough from the very start. Some of us have tried to hold on to our old ideas, and the result was nil until we let go absolutely. Remember that we deal with alcohol, cunning, baffling, powerful. Without help, it is too much for us, but there is one who has all power. That one is God. May you find him now. Half measures availed us nothing. We stood at the turning point. We asked his protection and care with complete abandon. Here are the steps we took, which are suggested as a program of recovery. 1, we admitted we were powerless over alcohol, that our lives had become unmanageable. 2, came to believe that a power greater than ourselves could restore us to sanity. 3, made a decision to turn our will and our lives over to the care of God as we understood him. 4, made a searching and fearless moral inventory of ourselves. 5, admitted to God, to ourselves, and to another human being the exact nature of our wrongs. 6, we're entirely ready to have God remove all these defects of character. 7, humbly asked him to remove our shortcoming. 8, made a list of all persons we had harmed and became willing to make amends to them all. 9, made direct amends to such people wherever possible, except when to do so would injure them or others. 10, continued to take a personal inventory, and when we were wrong, promptly admitted it. 11, sought through prayer and meditation to improve our conscious contact with God as we understood him, praying only for knowledge of his will for us and the power to carry that out. 12, having had a spiritual awakening as a result of these steps, we try to carry this message to alcoholics and practice these principles in all our affairs. Many of us exclaimed, "What an order! I can't go through with it." Do not be discouraged. No one among us has been able to maintain anything like perfect adherence to these principles. We are not saints. The point is that we are willing to grow along spiritual lines. The principles we have set down are guides to progress. We claim spiritual progress rather than spiritual perfection. A description of the alcoholic, the chapter to the agnostic, our personal adventures before and after make clear 3 pertinent ideas. A, that we were alcoholics and could not manage our own lives. B, that probably no human power could have relieved our alcoholism. And C, that God could and would if he was so.
The 7th tradition states that we are fully self-supporting through our own contributions. This allows us to pay our rent, expenses, and contributions to central office in New York. We encourage regular members to donate generously. The steps are to the individual what their traditions are to the group. Tonight, I've asked Dylan to read the 12 traditions for us.
Dylan, alcoholic. The 12 traditions of Alcoholics Anonymous. 1, our common welfare should come first. Personal recovery depends upon AA unity. 2, for our group purpose, there is but one ultimate authority, a loving God, as he may express himself in our group conscience. Our leaders are but trusted servants, they do not govern. 3, the only requirement for AA membership is the desire to stop drinking. 4, each group should be autonomous except in matters affecting other groups or AA as a whole. 5, each group has but one primary purpose, to carry its message to the alcoholic who still suffers. 6, an AA group ought never endorse, finance, or lend the AA name to any related facility or outside enterprise, lest problems of money, property, and prestige divert us from our primary purpose. 7, every AA group ought to be fully self-supporting, declining outside contributions. 8, Alcoholics Anonymous should remain forever non-professional, but our service centers may employ special workers. 9, AA as such ought never be organized, but we may create service boards or committees directly responsible to those they serve. 10, Alcoholics Anonymous has no opinion on outside issues, hence the AA name ought never be drawn into public controversy. 11, our public relations policy is based on attraction rather than promotion. We need to always maintain personal anonymity at the level of press, radio, and films. 12, anonymity is a spiritual foundation of all of our traditions, ever reminding us to place principles before personality.
The format of this meeting is one 10-minute speaker, a coffee break, and a main speaker. Tonight, our first speaker is Anna.
Give me a second, guys. I gotta set my timer because I tend to babble.
I got your timer too.
Okay. I'm Anna. I'm an alcoholic. Very grateful to be here. You guys will be hearing from my sponsor, Iris, a little bit later. She's absolutely amazing, and I remember the day I met her, she was main speaking at one of my home groups. And I just remember sitting there, and about 15 minutes into her speaking, a little voice popped into my head and said, I need her as my sponsor. And I'm very grateful for that because now I proudly have 10 months of sobriety. What it was like, well, it was chaos, complete and utter chaos. I didn't really start drinking in my teens or using until, I want to say like 16, 17, and that's just because a lot of shit happened at the same time. Sorry, I know we're in a church. Try not to cuss. But I lost 2 grandparents back to back, followed by a close family friend, and then another grandparent, all within like a 6-month span. And during that time, all I could think of was I need to be strong for everyone else around me. I can't show my emotions. And little did I know that that was causing me way more damage than I could ever imagine. Now I like to tell people I'm an emotional little gangster because if you see me and I'm not smiling, I have what's called RBF, resting bitch face. I get that from my dad because my dad looks so angry all the time. But then you see him smiling, he's like, this guy's not that bad. I get a lot of my personality traits from my father. I definitely am my father's daughter. I've never denied that. But I also think that because I grew up the youngest of 4, the only girl, and first generation from Mexico, I also got not only all of the modern teachings from all my friends at school, I got all the old school traditional teachings of don't ask, don't tell, anything. Yeah. So I struggled a lot with that growing up. I was the odd man out, obviously, because I wasn't a man. But slowly hiding all of my emotions, not facing my problems, and just kind of masking everything brought me to drugs and alcohol. And it slowly made me feel like, hey, I can handle this. I'm on top of the world. I can't feel a thing. But then it took more and more to not feel a thing. And then more and more got me into stupid and dangerous situations that I 100% could have avoided. I'm sure you guys could have avoided a couple too. But I eventually stepped away from it. I had a little dry spell of almost 5 years, 6 years, something like that. I was not kind. I was very angry. A lot of people got the short end of the stick having to deal with me during that time, including my ex, not husband. That's a whole story on its own. That can take up an hour, so I'm not going to get into that. If you have questions, you can come see me at the break. But he for sure put up with a lot of my BS, 100%. And I was not the best partner to him. I for sure was not the best sister. I was not the best daughter. I was not the best friend, although my best friend will tell you different. But I wouldn't change any of my experience for the world. As much as I hate all the damage that I caused, all the chaos that ensued, all of that brought me to Alcoholics Anonymous, which gave me a whole new life. I now have a job that I absolutely love instead of, working in the service industry, surrounded by other alcoholics who refuse to admit that they're alcoholics. But now I work a 9 to 5. This was the first holiday season where I was able to get everybody the exact present that I wanted instead of just running to the big 5 or the 5 below 2 days before Christmas. I am making smarter financial decisions that I never thought I could possibly make because I have an addiction to shopping as well, But I also get to be there for my brother, who's also in AA, who has, want to say he has 11 months now. Yeah. I'm very proud of him. My big brother is my best friend. I get to be there for my parents. My mom had surgery not that long ago, and I got to be there for her recovery. My dad is finally comfortable enough to feel like he can actually put in his papers for retirement. So hopefully by this time next year, he'll be retired because he's not worried about taking care of me. I get to be the godmother to my 2 beautiful nieces, who I love so much. And I get to be of service to people in these rooms and to my family to just show up. I didn't always do that. There was a long period of time where I just didn't show up to any family event. Now I'm at every single one. And I'm healthier and happier than I've ever been. How did I do it? I jumped straight into AA. I have commitments at my regular meetings. I have 4 commitments alone at my Friday night meeting. I have 2 regular commitments that I cover at my Monday night. I try to speak regularly. I don't say no to speaking because I was told, no, you're doing it. Yeah, good on her. She's a great sponsor. But I'm also honest. Sometimes I let my anger stew for a little bit, but who doesn't? I do follow through with all of my steps. I do my 4th step, and I just show up. I show up to my meetings, get in, get a commitment, and that's all I got for you.
Thank you again, Anna, so much. Thank you. Okay. We have literature, pamphlets, big books, grapevines, and flyers for upcoming events at the literature table. If you need a big book, we suggest that you do not leave here without one. Please see one of us for all your literature needs. We will now have a 10-minute coffee break. Okay.
Hello, I'm Iris. I'm an alcoholic. I am also setting a timer because I also will ramble if you give me the opportunity to. I have a sobriety date of May 29th, 2013. I have 2 home groups. I don't know why I didn't mention this when I stood up as a visitor. I got nervous. But But my two home groups are the Seal Beach speaker meeting and the Wild Bunch Wednesday night meeting at the Laguna Beach Canyon Club. I have a sponsor. She is very aware that she is my sponsor, and she is a sponsor, and so on and so forth. And I sponsor others, and two of them are with me right now. Also, just a shout out for Anna. She didn't mention it, but she also sponsors if you need a sponsor. So let me get down to business. So I got sober at the age of 15, which is kind of wild. And I'll identify a little bit. I will say I'm not really one for drunkalogs, so I will not spend too much time on that. But growing up, I basically felt like what we all kind of identify with. Like, I didn't feel normal. I didn't feel a part of. I felt like a puzzle piece in the wrong box. And I used to share that all the time when I went on panels because that was the only way I could describe it. And then as I was going through the big book, because I'm not good at memorizing things in the big book verbatim, it's crazy because there's this like little paragraph on page 52 that for some reason we all as alcoholics tend to relate to, where it says, we were having trouble with personal relationships. We couldn't control our emotional natures. We were prey to misery and depression. We couldn't make a living. We had feelings of usefulness. We were full of fear. We were unhappy. We couldn't seem to be of real help to other people. And those are the bedevilments. And I felt those from the beginning. And I don't know why or how, but, you know, all the trauma I had growing up, whatever happened. I'm adopted from Ukraine, was in an orphanage with human trafficking. In this last war for Russia and Ukraine, my orphanage got bombed. None of that makes me an alcoholic. My parents' divorce doesn't make me an alcoholic. But the bedevilments right here tell me that, like, I have something else going on with me, and I might be an alcoholic. The only reason I touch on, and I like to touch on it when I talk about the bombing in Ukraine, because obviously that was very recent, is because when I came to AA, I didn't know that there was a God that was actually looking out for me. And I didn't know that even though I'm not seeking God, that God is still going to work in my life if I let him. And that was just to show that this really nice American family adopted me. I lived a middle class, comfortable life. The only family trauma I had at the time was my parents getting divorced. It was very amicable. They're weirdly still best friends, and they carpool to work every day. So best case divorce scenario you could have, and that just goes to show that God's been working in my life for a really, really long time from the beginning, or else I would be in that bombing, or I would be in Ukraine right now, and I would be doing God knows what if I wasn't dead right now. So for anyone that's like, dude, I don't know where God is, he's right there. And so to get started, I started drinking at the age of 11. Like I said, I mentioned the bedevilments. That's exactly why I drank. I have an older brother. He is also my best friend and always will be. And I'll talk about him a little bit later, but, or in more depth. But for him, he was popular. He drank, he smoked weed, he had all these friends, and I thought, my brain was like correlating the two, and I was like, okay, so in order for me to have friends and stop being this weird kid that just watches anime and eats seaweed, I guess smoking weed and drinking is like how I make friends. And so there I went, and I had that sense of ease and comfort that we get during the first drink, and I spent the rest of my time getting loaded, which, like I said, I got sober at 15. Didn't take me that long to find my bottom. And there's a part in the big book where it talks about young people in AA and how women sink faster and lower than others on page 33. Couldn't tell you why. I'm not a biologist or a scientist or whatever you need to be to know why that is, but I know that I hit my bottom when I hit my bottom, and I came to Alcoholics Anonymous, and thank God it was early on. So I start drinking, I get that sense of ease and comfort. The rest of my alcoholism is just me chasing that feeling, and just spoilers, I never got that feeling again. I had a lot of fun, don't get me wrong. Obviously, I was a kid, I was just doing fun things. I even started a fight club because I really like Chuck Palahniuk. He's my favorite author. So I started a fight club in a park until the cops came. And because I'm selfish, the best part of that is I didn't even participate in the fight club. I just sat there and drank and smoked weed with my friends and watched other people fight each other because I convinced them to. And that's just the type of person I am. Like, I will manipulate and make you do things for me in order for me to, like, not look at myself and take accountability for things. So when I came to Alcoholics Anonymous, that was, like, really crazy that I had a part in a lot of things. And I said, really? The audacity of my sponsor to tell me that I'm selfish and self-centered, as if the big book says that, you know? So just to, like, you know, keep it going. So my alcoholism progressed really fast. I know that this is Alcoholics Anonymous. Drugs are a part of my story. It started, consisted, and ended with alcohol. But when I came into AA, I was coming off of methadone and heroin as well. And that just goes to show that within that 4 years, ending as a 15-year-old, my disease progressed really fast, and my mind, my body, my soul was given to drugs and alcohol and these other vices. So I started drinking at age 11. When I was 13 and I was a freshman in high school, I got arrested for selling drugs. And this is going to go into how I found AA. I started going to this outpatient program, and this is just a funny story I'll share. So like I said, I'm from Ukraine. And I don't know anything about international law. You could tell me anything, and I would be like, yeah, you're probably right. And so my parents, they sit me down one day because I'm continuing to keep using and keep drinking. Like, throughout this time, I've just decided now that I'm on probation, I'm not going to use things that they can catch me on. So I continue drinking and then, you know, delve into some other things that don't show up on drug tests. And my parents sit me down one day and they say, hey, Iris, we didn't know that we would have to tell you this, but so you're adopted from Ukraine, and one of the laws in place for us to get you is that the FBI has to check on you every couple of years. And if you get arrested for any drugs, you'll get deported. That's not a real law. But I believed it. I was like telling everyone and their mom that I was like, yeah, I'm going to get deported any minute now. I don't know what's happening. And like, that just goes to show you my alcoholism was worth more than like, I'm going to go to this like almost third world country and like just not know anything. But me drinking and getting away with it is worth it. And that's just how my alcoholism was. And so I continued on, and to be completely honest, I didn't find out that they were lying to me until I had 2 years sober in this sobriety date. And then I was like, you know what? I think they were, like, my sponsor was like, hey, honey, I don't think that's real. And I was like, are you joking? Like, that's crazy. So this whole time I'm just telling everyone I'm going to get deported, but I'm just like drinking the whole time and other things. And I, at the time I had this best friend, and he went to junior high with me, and then he like abruptly disappeared and moved to the San Fernando Valley. I'm from Santa Clarita. Where I got sober was the Rafters, if you guys have heard of it. So I'm very familiar with LA County meetings. But so he moves to the Valley, and I'm like, wow, that's weird. I don't know where my friend went. And then in high school, he reaches back out, and it turns out that his parents got evicted for meth manufacturing, and so they moved. And so I was like, wow, that's a really good idea. I should start hanging out with you again. And then his parents were the type of parents that were like, if you guys are bored and just watching TV, you can come help us with work. And we were just putting things in baggies on scales and watching them make things. And like, we were like, I don't know what's happening. So that was kind of my introduction right after I got off probation, that there were other substances that were a lot stronger that could take me out of myself. So around this time, I guess I'll go back a little bit. I'm sorry. This is how I found AA. Sorry, like I said, I'll scramble. But so my brother would bring his friends over, right? Like I said. And when I was 12, a kid knocks on the door. He's 16. And I opened the door, and I think I just found the love of my life. I said, this guy is so cute. He's going to be my husband. And I just love him. And he said the most romantic thing to me. He did not ask me my name. He said, I'm here for Jake, my brother. Yeah, I'm here for Jake. Can I go upstairs? And then I just let him in, and it was the most romantic thing ever. And I said, I think you're my dream guy. And then he snorted Percocets off my toilet. And I was like, oh my God, you're everything. I think you're all my ideals, actually. And so when I go to this outpatient program after I get arrested, the love of my life is also there. And I'm like, oh my God, my dreams are coming true. And I'm a really selfish alcoholic. Like Anna mentioned that she was unable to be a daughter, a friend, a partner, all the things. I was also unable to do those things. And so this guy, I'm just going to say his name because who cares? But his name's Russ. And Russ was, I was like one of those girls that would just put Russ on my notebook at school and put like a heart around it. And I would text him every single day just to have some sort of interaction with him because he became my higher power. But I didn't ask him anything about himself because I'm selfish and a bad friend. I didn't know that he was in Alcoholics Anonymous. And at this time, I think he was like 18. I don't know. This was like a couple years after I met him, obviously. And then he's like, yeah, I'm really excited about like what I just did. And I'm like, oh, what'd you do? And he said, I just finished my 12th step. And I was like, what does that mean? As if I wasn't just on probation for 10 months going to this outpatient program where they talk about Alcoholics Anonymous and 12-step programs. I was like, wow, I've never heard of that before. What is that? And he says, it means I can sponsor. And I don't know what you do when you really like someone, but you'll make any excuse, love their favorite band, and not know any songs from them. And you'll just do anything to hang out with them. So I said, wow, that's awesome. Will you be my sponsor? And he was my first AA sponsor. And I was 14, and we met up, and we read the doctor's opinion. I was not sober, by the way. We read the doctor's opinion, and he had all these crazy things highlighted in there. And, like, the whole time I'm there, I'm like, why are we reading this book? I thought this was a date. And I'm so confused. And then the things that are highlighted are talking about the allergy and talking about the spiritual malady and the mental obsession that we as alcoholics have. And the whole part where it talks about we drink for the effect, not the taste. And then he has me read the whole thing. And he's like, read it out loud. When you get to these parts that are underlined, I want you to tell me if you relate to them. And that was the first time I remember being a little bit spooked because I was like, hey, this is a date? Why are you like learning my inner secrets right now and all my feelings? Because I started to relate to this book and what it was saying, but I didn't know what it was. I was oblivious to the fact that we were doing something in Alcoholics Anonymous, that I was reading the big book. And then we didn't hook up after, and I was really mad. And I left really mad. And then the next day he said, you should come with me to this thing. And I said, okay, finally, he'll make it up to me. He'll buy me dinner, flowers or something. And then I show up to the rafters because he told me to. And I said, what is this AA triangle? Like, what is going on here? There's this thing on the podium that says we care. And like a bunch of like older gentlemen there. And I'm like, this is a crazy idea for a date. And I go in the room and I look for all the differences because after that, I'm like, why did you bring me here? Why are we at an AA meeting? And he's like, we literally read the doctor's opinion yesterday. I don't know why you're this confused. And so I sat in that meeting and I immediately was like, I am not one of you at all. I'm 14. This can't be me. I don't relate. Get me out of here. And what happened for me is like now I knew where Alcoholics Anonymous was even when I wasn't ready for it. And you know, I'm still delusional. I still think that he's the love of my life. So I just keep coming to meetings just to see him. Be like, oh, maybe I'll like run into him at this like weird meeting hall or whatever, you know? And that goes on and my disease progresses for about a year after that. And luckily, by the time I came to Alcoholics Anonymous this time, I had stalked him enough that I found a lot of similarities, and a lot of those yets that I had when I first came in, I had already achieved those. So when I came to Alcoholics Anonymous this time, I had gone through a few sponsors, and I wasn't doing the work. I was just doing it to call them my sponsor. They were not my sponsor, or they were just my sponsor by name. I wasn't actively doing the steps. And I was really just showing up because all my friends were mad at me, my parents were mad at me, I was causing a lot of wreckage, and if I say, hey, I'm in AA and I have a sponsor, everyone seems to leave me alone and let me do my thing. So when I came to Alcoholics Anonymous this last time, I had a few sobriety dates by then, and I got this sponsor. Her name's Lisa, and I didn't want her to be my sponsor. I didn't like her, but people just kept putting her in my way, and I said, all right, fine, I'll see what this lady has to say. And I still hated her. The really cool part about that is today, Lisa is one of my best friends. She sponsored me for 8 years. I was a bridesmaid in her wedding, and I'm the auntie to her son and her son that's on the way. And that's like what Alcoholics Anonymous did for me, is like I found family. So this lady, Lisa, is sponsoring me, and I hate her. By this time, the wreckage I've caused, like, I always like to mention this. Again, I was 15. When I came to Alcoholics Anonymous, I was hearing you guys talk about, like, losing the kids, the car, the house, the everything. I never acquired any of that in order to lose it. But what I did relate to is what the doctor's opinion talks about, and, like, this spiritual bankruptcy that I just constantly felt. And I constantly just felt like an emotional hangover of, like, I'm not doing something right. I have to apologize to these people. And every day it was, like, another thing that I had to, like, go back and like make up for, and then play catch up the rest of the day, and also get whatever fix I needed just to get through the day. And that was a constant routine, and I was really, really miserable, and I was really, really tired. I also am proud to say that I made 4 really nice psych ward holds within that time. And so that just goes to show, like, my disease progressed very quickly, and my life was very much unmanageable, and I wasn't ready to tell you guys that. But then my friend that I mentioned, his parents were meth manufacturers. I had 34 days sober. I'm working with Lisa. I'm on the 3rd step. I'm not willing to talk about God. I'm not willing to give anything up to God. I'm not willing to admit that I'm not God. And especially that, like, you want me to say that my ideas are insane? Like, absolutely not. I'm a super rational person. And so that's where I was at. And then my friend Damon tries to get sober, and he ends up committing suicide because he couldn't or wouldn't be honest with himself, you know? But the really cool thing is at that 34th day when I found out he died, I did go out. I used that as an excuse. I obviously had some reservations and this mental blank spot, and I failed to enlarge upon my spiritual life. The whole thing they talk about, the milk and whiskey and like Jim's mindset, was going through my head, so I drank. Within that same day I drank, I ended up in the psych ward again. And then I got out on May 29th, and I was sober for the first time because they had to sedate me the whole time I was there, so I don't count the first 2 days. And I call Lisa and I say, I'm really ready to do this thing. I'm exhausted. And she gets me to work immediately. She has me do 90 meetings in 90 days. She has me get phone numbers from 3 women at every single meeting I go to. She has me call newcomers. She has me send her gratitude list every day. And at the time, I didn't know what it meant to be grateful, and that gratitude is an action. I was saying things like, I'm grateful for my cigarettes, my lighter, my perfume, so my mom doesn't smell the cigarettes because I'll get in trouble when I get home. And all these random superficial things. And it's crazy because now I have this like gratitude group chat with my sponsees, and now we can make gratitude an action because I finally understand what that means today. But I do 90 and 90. She jumps me right into my steps, and like the 3 questions that she pretty much asked me of what like steps 1, 2, and 3 are about is like, 1, I don't have to grasp the higher power all at once. I don't have to sit down one day and just be like, all right, Jesus, we're doing this thing. Like, it is a process that I get to like learn and grow with. So the things that she asked me was, for step 1, she basically made sure I knew that I'm an alcoholic, my life is unmanageable, and I'm willing to go to any length to continue my sobriety and maintain my sobriety. And that, I was like, absolutely, out the gate, let's go. Like, I'm just done. And then for step 2 and 3, she asked me, am I insane? And I said, yeah, definitely. She said, do you think your decisions are rational? And I said, nope. And she said, okay, so do you know that you're not God? And I said, I guess I do, you know? I was a little reluctant, but I admitted it. I knew. I just was bummed about it. And then step 3, she asked me if there was even a 0.1% chance that maybe somebody else's God or somebody else's program worked for them, and that maybe I could borrow their God. And I was willing to believe that this program worked for you guys. You know, I believed that she believed in God. I believed that you guys believed in God, or whatever higher power suits your needs, you know? And I was okay with believing that. And so my first higher power was the rooms of AA. And I was really I was good on that, you know, because I knew that if I were to die from alcoholism, or if something happened, this room would not stop working for you guys. You know, this program started working long before I existed, and it's going to work long after I exist. And like that I knew for a fact. And what step 4 looked like is like once I was able to build that foundation and kind of have the idea that maybe sometimes, only every once in a while, I can be wrong, but only on justified circumstance. That's a joke, guys. That I can like build this foundation in order to get down to the causes and conditions of my drinking, and do this 4th step and go over my resentments and find my parts. And like what that really looks like is like it talks about on again, not a big book thumper here, but 61 or 62, the big book, it talks about selfish self-centeredness. That's the root of our troubles. Yeah, you're killing it over there. I don't know the words, but you're saying what I meant. But yeah, and like I was able to put that to pen and paper and really understand like how my thought processes work and the things that I need to cut out. And then I did a 5th step and all these things that I thought were like, I'm so shameful. I feel a lot of guilt, all these things that I was going to take to the grave. My sponsor said, okay, big deal. Okay, I've done that too. Okay, and what else? And then I immediately was like, oh, because I've been ruminating on this for a few years and kind of having these resentments grow, I thought it was much worse than it was. And that's like the cool thing about the steps is like we do think it's much worse than it is when we come in here, but these steps are simple. They're just not easy. And so I go through my 5th step and we talk about these defects, and I'm able to give these up to God, you know? And what that looks like is I had to rewrite my 7th step, and my sponsor had me list out all my defects and get to the root of the fear behind it and why I'm afraid and why I react in that way. And so now I'm able to, whenever I'm acting out of fear, acting out of anger, you know, the 100 forms of fear, which I have all of them, I was able to kind of pause when agitated and start doing these like weird little cliche things it talks about, like let go, let God, pause when agitated, first things first, easy does it. Like all these things started to come when I started dropping the rock, you know? I know that's a controversial joke, but it's fine, whatever. But what happened for me is like slowly but surely, like my sponsor would say this thing that I still say to my sponsees today is whenever I would have an issue of some sort, and I'm like, but she did this and she did this and she did that and this and this and this, and I'm justified to be angry. She said, okay, but how free do you want to be? And like today I really want to be free. And then I moved on to the amends process, and I'm very grateful that you know, a lot of them went really well. And I know I'm not allowed to cuss in this meeting, but I'm going to do it this one time. If you're really scared of the amends, the worst thing that happened to me is I made my amends, and then somebody said, okay, well, you're still a cunt. Sorry, I got scared because I saw a child, and I was like, wait a second. I'm sorry. And that was the worst I got. And like, you know, in other people's, you know, wreckage and all these things, like you may get worse, but like what happened for me is like, no matter how bad the consequences were of my amends and how much they want to, you know, be like, okay, well, you also did this, you forgot this, this is what you can do for me. Cause like I had to end every amends was like, hey, did I leave anything out? What can I do to make it right? And then I just get pile driven into the ground, you know? But like the cool thing is like no matter what that action was or like how that went, like I got to leave and just be free. And like that's where I started getting that freedom from bondage, was from my amends. And like the really cool thing about 10, 11, and 12 is it's a daily maintenance. And what 10, 11, and 10 in particular says that when we were wrong, we promptly admit it. Like, I italicize that promptly because I know when I'm wrong. I know when I'm acting out because I have 11 years sober now. I'm not saying I have the most time in the world. Compared to a lot of people, I have no time at all, and I'm still learning, and I'm still teachable. But at least at this point, the minute I get uncomfortable, I know that I'm not serving God, you know? And so it's really easy, and not always easy. Again, not perfect. I'm not trying to say I am. But I've been very blessed to be able to know that when I'm uncomfortable lately, I know that I get to look at that and be like, okay, where was I in fear? Why am I uncomfortable? And who do I need to apologize to? Because at the end of the day, I'm an asshole. I constantly have to do inventories. I was just telling my sponsees I have this roommate situation, and it's going very poorly. And I've had she's probably lived there for about 3 months. I've written inventories every other day on her. And I probably need to do another one when I get home. But like, you know, I'm consistently able to find my part. And like where it says we're selfish and self-centered in the page 61 and 62, it says we do, again, bad at the big book. I'm going to botch this. He's going to correct me and it's going to be great. But it says that we do things that later place us in a position to be harmed. And like what's happening for me is like I have these resentments because I did something that placed me in a position to be harmed, and now I'm in this situation and I need to suit up and show up. And today I can do that and I can recognize the fear that I have. Step 11, it talks about in the big book that upon awakening and before bed we thank God for another day sober. And it kind of goes into the third step a little bit where we turn our will over every day. When I wake up and I ask God to please direct my day, like that's my daily maintenance in my 11th step as well. And the cool thing is my sponsor let me rewrite the third step prayer because I'm not a fan of the thou and the thy and the where art thou, all that stuff. I'm sorry if I offend anybody, but she had me rewrite my third step, and I had to make it really simple because I'm kind of a dum-dum sometimes. And my third step for a long time was just like, you know what, dude, fuck it, you got it. And that was it. I just had to keep restarting my day when I found myself to be in self, and I just had to say, fuck it, you got it. And the 11th step allows me to continue doing that, and then thank God when I rest for the day and make prayer and meditation one of the core moments of my day where I get to sit there and I get to really like take debits and credits of my day like the big book talks about. And then you know, step 12 is being of service and like carrying this message to other alcoholics after having a spiritual awakening as a result of the steps. And like thank God I've had that, and I've had many of them. And like I get to sponsor these 2 beautiful women and a few others and annoy them in this group chat about gratitude every morning. And I'm like, did you pray today? And then they're like, no, or they just don't reply. And I'm just like, all right, dude, you're not trusting God. But you know, I have a really beautiful life today that allows me to be a partner and a friend and a sister and a daughter, you know. And a sponsor sometimes. But you know, I'll share this story. So I didn't mention that around years 3 to 5, I went through some stuff totally based on self, placed me in a position to be harmed. I left AA for those years, and I was completely dry, not going to meetings. My normie boyfriend was my higher power, and I eventually got to the point where I said, you know what, maybe I was 15 and it was just a phase. And that's when the bedevilments came back, you know, that I talked about in the beginning. And I was completely bedeviled, stopped getting invited to the things. For a while, people were reaching out, kind of offering, like, subtle 12-step calls on me to, like, get me back to the rooms. But after a while, you know, you're in your alcoholism enough. No one wants to be around you, invite you to things. No one wants to be there, which is so fair. Like, what have I done for you? You know, I'm no longer of service. And I started working my steps backwards where like I was no longer being of service. I was no longer praying and meditating. I was no longer taking a daily inventory. I was no longer letting go of my defects and giving them up to God. And then I was not taking inventory and looking at, you know, like really, you know, honing in on my resentments and how to fix them, because resentments will take us out, right? I was no longer doing that. I was no longer giving my will up to God every day. I no longer believed I was insane. I thought I was super rational at a certain point. And then after a while, I said, you know what, my life is great, and I don't actually need AA, and I don't think I'm an alcoholic, and I don't think I need meetings anymore. And I was so close to having to change my sobriety date, you know? It was either I relapse and I, you know, have my tail tucked between my legs and I come back to the rooms, or I kill myself. And I mention this a lot, but I have an ego that's bigger than my conception of God. So that, I was not about to change my sobriety date, and thank God I didn't have to. This is all in Santa Clarita, LA area. And then I do a geographical to Orange County, where I'm at now. And it is because I thought that Lisa knew all the answers, my first sponsor, who sponsored me for 8 years, and she moved to Orange County. So I said, I'm going to move to Orange County, and then I'm not going to listen to anything you say still. But I'm going to move there and still call you my sponsor, because at least I have a sponsor by name, you know? And I caused a lot of wreckage, and I can tell you that, like, probably every single person I interacted with between that time was owed an amends, and thank God I was able to do that for them. And be able to free myself, because it's not for them, it's for me, it's for my recovery, and again, how free do I want to be? So the bedevilments are going crazy, and I move here, and I'm still 1 foot in, 1 foot out. I start working with this woman named Michelle, because I needed a different experience, and Michelle is my current sponsor, you know, she starts taking me through the steps. Once again, I'm not listening to her. I'm not doing anything. I'm just doing my own thing. I have all these ideas and all these plans. She tells me what's wrong with them, and I say, nah, that's stupid. I'm not going to do that. So again, she was my sponsor by name. I move here, and I'll get into my brother right now. My brother is and was one of us. October 6th, 2020, he died from fentanyl overdose, and I was really dry at the time. So after that, I lose my job, I get dumped. All these things lead me to this bottom that pushed me back into AA, and I'll get to that in a second. But Alcoholics Anonymous showed up for me. You know, I actually ended up moving home again for a year and kind of getting my life together. I wanted to be with my parents. I wanted to grieve. I needed a mental break. Did I do it gracefully or perfectly? Absolutely not. And I also, once again, needed to make amends to everyone I interacted with that year. Because I was really selfish and self-centered, and again, placed myself in a position to be harmed. But what happened was my brother had a funeral, and it was open casket, and there was a thing that my parents did to leave sticky notes. There was like a thing of sticky notes so that you could leave a note for him and put it in the casket so that he could get cremated with it. I don't know if you've figured this out by now, but I definitely qualify for Al-Anon too. I think we all do. We're dealing with alcoholics every day. So I, being the untreated Al-Anon I am, there a bunch of people from Alcoholics Anonymous show up. People that I got sober with, people who watched me grow up in Alcoholics Anonymous. And like I said, I was 15. I literally did grow up in Alcoholics Anonymous. And they didn't know my brother, but they knew that I was struggling with it, and they showed up because that's what people in Alcoholics Anonymous do. Alcoholics Anonymous has become my chosen family. And again, they didn't know him. So when they were writing sticky notes, my little Al-Anon head was like, I'm going to read what they said. And I start reading them. And just so you know, my brother was a really overprotective brother. Even in his disease, if I fell asleep on the couch and I was 22, he would still carry me up to bed as if I was 10, you know? If I was in school, he didn't know the subject, to make sure he could tutor me, he would go learn it and come back and teach me, even strung out, you know? He was really great and is really great and is still my best friend. And so when I started reading those notes, you know, Lisa was there, all the people, you know? I started reading the notes, and they said, don't worry, Jake, we got her. Because Alcoholics Anonymous is my chosen family, and you guys have shown up for me every step of the way. And the really cool thing is, like, we have moments where, like, we mix calamity with serenity. Again, I think it's clear, not a big book thumper, but you get what part I'm talking about, and it says, what was our choice to be? And, you know, God was nudging me for a really long time. But when my brother died, God hit me with a 2x4. And it was I immediately had the thought of like, God was everything or he was nothing. What was my choice to be? What do I want to do? And I jumped back into Alcoholics Anonymous, and it's been like that ever since. Because I've never been, I'll be honest, I've never been so miserable except for those, like, loaded versus 3 years dry. I was never as miserable as I was 3 years dry, because at least when I was loaded, I knew I could eventually find a solution. But then I'm over here thinking I have a solution and it's still not working. You know? I'm sorry I keep staring at you. You're just like right in my eye line, but you're great. So when I came back to Alcoholics Anonymous, same sobriety date, thank God, I found the fire of AA again. And I started going back to meetings, and I started working with Michelle again. And I finally got what she was saying. Her message that I didn't get the first time came to me. I started going to the Seal Beach speaker meeting. And like today, my life is very different. For a long time, I was that person who had multiple years of sobriety, and then I would see newcomers, and I'm supposed to talk to them because that's what you told me to do. But I have nothing to share because I'm dry. I have no message, nothing to give you. And then I would sit there and be bummed because I'm like, why did they ask them to sponsor them? Like, I want sponsees. But it's like nobody wanted what I had. I was just this grumpy 20-year-old just walking around being like, I'm mad, you know? Like, and then vomiting my problems off at the podium and not giving any solution and not really talking about God at all because I didn't have one for a long time. And so after that, all of a sudden, I start working this program, and then now I have a fucking group chat of people I annoy, you know? And it's like, Alcoholics Anonymous gave that to me. Alcoholics Anonymous gave me an opportunity to participate in my sobriety so that I can be with you one more day. My life is amazing, you know? I no longer am bedeviled every second of every day. Do I have to do inventories every other day? Yeah, absolutely, but at least I'm doing the inventories. And today, like, I like who I am. I look in the mirror and I know that I'm a good person and that I try my best. And, like, that's something that I couldn't do for so many years, even in sobriety when I was dry, you know? I'm able to be of service and show up, participate, speak. And whether it goes badly or poorly or it goes well, I'm not in the results business. Because I was told in Alcoholics Anonymous, all I have to do is the footwork and the results aren't up to me. So even if I bomb it, which, guys, I know I'm not, so. Sorry, I just deflect with humor. Even if I bomb it, there's so many other meetings of Alcoholics Anonymous, and the message can be shown in so many different ways. And my job, when I'm speaking, when I'm talking to sponsees, when I'm answering phone calls, when I'm doing absolutely anything in AA, it's just to ask God to speak through me. And God speaks through every single one of you. And the cool thing is that we pray before the meeting. So, like, if you don't like what I have to say, you can take it up with God, because it's not my problem. But today I have a partner that's absolutely amazing. And I'm just getting into the superficial things. I have a partner that's absolutely amazing. He is also in sobriety, and we get to check each other when we're not doing so hot, you know? And we get to share this beautiful life with roommates that I may dislike sometimes, that are all also members of Alcoholics Anonymous. And we get to share this thing together and have this fellowship. And, I, for a long time, thought I was really stupid. And I forgot who I was talking to about this. For a long time, for a long time I thought I was really stupid. I was failing out of high school and all these things, and I couldn't do anything right. And then all of a sudden I get sober, and then I'm like, oh, I'm actually smart. I was just strung out, you know? And I'm somebody who, even in sobriety, I'm a college dropout. I will drop all my classes and then be like, you know what, a W isn't that bad. At least it's not an F, you know? I'm just one of those, low GPA. I don't know how I got an associate's. Never ended up using it. I got it and then was like, cool, I did the work. I'm going to go back to my minimum wage job where everything's easy, and not do any footwork after that, right? And I got to graduate college and actually finish this year. And, like, now I get to do side work with people in Alcoholics Anonymous. And, like, it's a really cool life that you get to have. And, like, it talks about, this is the last thing I'll say, because I have about 5 minutes, and I told my sponsee before this, I'm not somebody that if I have a lot of time left that I'll just keep talking, because then I'll just talk out of my ass, and nobody wants that. Wow, I just forgot what I was going to say. Wow, that's awesome. I love that for me. Anna, what was I saying? I got to graduate college. Yes.
Minimum wage job.
You're
smart.
I'm smart. I get to work with people in AA now. You know what? Honestly, if I forgot it, it probably wasn't that important. It's fine. But to really just like, oh, I remember what I was gonna say. There's this story in the back of the book. I don't know. I'm somebody who like, I've read the back of the book a million times, and I always find stories that I just was like, I didn't even know that was in there. But there's this story called Grounded, and it's about, I think it's the right story. Correct me if I'm wrong if it's not, but I'm pretty sure it's this one. And it talks about this pilot that lost his license, and he talks about doing the footwork, and then like at the end of the story where like usually you definitely would not get your license back, he was able to do the work and get his license back, and then he became a pilot again. And he got to like do these things. And like, so for the newcomers in the room, if you feel like your life is over and you feel like all these things that you have to repair are like too big for you, you don't have to worry about that right now. Just get a sponsor, go through the steps. Because I know a lot of people and myself, when I came into AA, I was like, all right, so now that I'm in AA and my life is together, I'm going to go back to school, I'm going to get a job, I'm going to become a vegan, I'm going to quit smoking cigarettes, and I'm going to go to the gym every day. And I'm going to do 90 and 90. And my sponsor would just sit there and be like, dude, just focus on going to the meetings and doing your steps. Like, what are you doing? You're not, just shut up, you know? I'm going to tell you to shut up right now. Like, don't do that. Like, just get a sponsor and go through the steps. Because all those things, and it talks about it in the big book, all those things will work themselves out. I can't tell you how I got from point A, being this like little 75-year-old newcomer that just didn't know, or 75-pound newcomer who was just malnourished and crazy, to like where I'm at now, which is just like regular and crazy, but like I have God now. But like, I can't tell you how I got there, but like all it is like just doing the footwork, and the results are up to God. And this is the last thing I'll say, is this program is not for people who want it or people who need it. It's for people who do it. Get a big book, get a sponsor, do the steps, get to work.